Please make sure that you're muted, please. Thank you. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Anchorage Assembly to order. Let's start with the roll call. Madam Clerk?
It's me. The system is.
For folks on the phone, we're just dealing with a technical issue. We'll be right back. For folks on the phone, it's just going to be another few minutes.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Mr. Rivera,
Present.
Mr. Peterson,
Present.
Ms. LaFrance,
Here.
Ms. Kennedy,
Here.
Mr. Perez-Verdilla,
Here.
Ms. Zalatel,
Here.
Mr. Dunbar,
Here.
Mr. Weddleton,
Here.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
Ms. Allard.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Jones, if you could lead us in the pledge. Thank you. Next, we have the Land Acknowledgement. Ms. LaFrance.
A land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. It is an actionable statement that marks our collective movement towards decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get on to our business. So we have one item before we get to the third public hearing on the various budgets, so let's handle that. So item 4A under old business, notice of reconsideration on ordinance number AO 2020-117, an ordinance of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly providing for business personal property tax relief to eligible taxpayers financially impacted by government orders as an economic stimulus measure in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. So after the last meeting on November 4th, Ms. Zalatel made a motion to reconsider. Ms. Kennedy seconded it. So that is the item that we have before us. Ms. Zalatel, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. And actually, Ms. Zalatel, if you could actually make the motion so we can have it on the record.
Sure, of course. I move to reconsider the ordinance as stated. Second.
Go ahead, Ms. Zalatel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like an opportunity to open this item back up for further discussion and amendment to address the concerns that had been raised in the last debate. I think it would ultimately change my outcome on the matter.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to reconsider? Just for the public and the body, so a yes vote means that this item will come back before us, and a no vote means that the last vote stands on this item. Okay, seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the motion to reconsider.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Perez-Verdilla,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Dunbar,
Yes.
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
That motion is approved 9-1. So we now have that item back before us. Is there any discussion? Doesn't go back.
Mr. Chair.
Motion. So the clerk reminds me that we need a new motion to approve on this item before we begin discussion. Is there such a motion? Again, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there moved and seconded? Ms. Zolotel?
Yes, move to postpone this item to the meeting of November 17th.
Second.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, so the motion we have before us is to postpone action on this item to November 17th. Ms. Zolotel, did you want to speak to it?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have amendments ready. I just received them at 6:02 today, and I still needs just a tiny bit more work. We've been working as quickly as possible, but to take this up on the 17th would give us a little bit more time to refine them. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Constant, on the motion to postpone.
Yeah, this is the single most reckless piece of legislation that has come across the dais since I've been on this body. And it's a fool's errand to open a hole in the tax rolls and just let everyone run through. I look forward to seeing the amendments that the members bring forward, but at this point, this is a bomb waiting to go off on the taxpayer.
Thank you. Ms. Eilert, on the motion to postpone.
I think that this is a good thing and that we do need to move forward with it. We have put our community in dire straits, and supporting this would be a good thing. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the motion to postpone.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Perez-Verdia,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar,
Yes.
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
That motion is approved 8-2, so that'll be back before us on November 17th. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the various public hearing items. So first, we have the third public hearing on AO 2020-105, an ordinance of the Municipality of Anchorage adopting and appropriating funds of the 2021 general government operating budget for the Municipality of Anchorage. We're going to start with folks on the phone, starting with Carrie Reardon.
Welcome to the voicemail of...
Next, we'll go to Jamie Lang.
This is Jamie.
Hi, Ms. Lang. This is Felix Rivera. You are here with the Anchorage Assembly. We are on public testimony for the 2021 General Government Operating Budget. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys were going to call last week, but I did send my testimony in via email. So the public testimony should be there, but it was for the public library. I am a library advisory board member, and this year with COVID-19, the librarians have been having to check out additional things that haven't been checked out in the past, like the MiFis and the Chromebooks. And part of the hoping to not have cuts is to please help them get funding for an additional librarian that can do network specialty stuff specific to being able to help check that that equipment out for people that don't have internet services or need computers. So that was really what I had sent my email about, and I thought that I was going to be called last week. So sorry, I'm not prepared.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And yes, we did receive that email of yours.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next, we have Mary Rasmussen.
Hello?
Hi, Ms. Rasmussen. This is Felix Rivera. You're here with the Anchorage Assembly. We're on public testimony for AO 2020-105, the 2021 General Government Operating Budget. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to have a chance to speak to you. I'm the president of Friends of the Library, but I'm also a big library supporter on my own. I look at this assembly, some in person, some by knowing who they are, and you have been very, very positive in your support of the library, and I want to thank each and every one of you for that because it's been a very rough time. As many of you know, we look at our materials budget, that we are doing so much more electronic and it costs so much more. But what I wanted to speak to was the library IT coordinator. It would be an additional $121,000, and I realize this might not be the time to ask for it, but I would like to put out there that we rely on technology a lot with our laptops being checked out, with our curbside taking of books, with our electronic books, so that a new position to help coordinate all this is really needed to successfully serve the public. So I was hoping that if there was any money, that $121,000 could go toward that position. I understand this is a very rough time, and I don't know if there is going to be any money, but if there were some sort of windfall or government money coming in, maybe revisions in the spring, I would hope that we could get some more money for the library. So I guess I'm not asking for you to add to it. I'm just wanted to say thank you, and I really appreciate the common sense and support of the library from all Assembly members.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and switch to in-person. Would anyone like to testify? Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Okay. My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Alaska resident, 43 years, 20 of those years, Anchorage resident, currently a Valley resident, Metsu Valley. The first thing I want to address is this. I continue to see the Assembly and administration not face reality, a reality check on what the fiscal situation of this city is. And one thing they continue to do, and this is part of the budget, is continue to deal in such a way, dealing with the contracts for employees. You continue to approve contracts like, for example, recently dealing with wait and pay and so forth. And I've addressed you previously for a couple of times that you need to do a moratorium on all government employee contracts at this time. We do not know what the future is. If we did, I believe you would be more responsible, but we have a dark tunnel for us, the unknown. And we should not be rewarding government employees anywhere in this state, including in Anchorage, with increased pay and benefits. When the businesses out there who are in business today are wondering they're going to be in business tomorrow, and people who've got a job today are wondering they're going to have a job tomorrow. By ignoring that situation, which you have been ignoring as recently during the past 4 weeks with agreeing to labor contracts, and now you've got a budget before you, and you cannot keep on rewarding the government employees with increased pay, increased benefits. You need to stop it now. This is a serious situation we're in. It's not new to you now. It's not new to any of us because we've been dealing with it for many, many, many months. And now we've got a different picture here, but you're reacting like it's okay to reward those with increased pay and benefits. Now, what I also would like to remind you too on the financial situation is that not only do you not know what the future is, you do not know really what the physical future of our country is and how so-called monies and grants or whatever are going to come to the city and match whatever. This is a complete unknown too. And in state particularly because the state is physically not sound right now. And your latest decisions dealing with municipal light and power and merger is a road to bankruptcy when you did that. But you want to get that money now and forget what you've done. And that was a wrong move that you've done. It's a signal of totally physical irresponsibility. I'll leave you with that because there's other items on the agenda and I'll testify then respectfully. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, one footnote. You mentioned here in closing a reference that these copies of the budget are available in the library. Remind the city of Anchorage the library is closed and you can't get those hard copies. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify? Anyone at all? Apologies, Ms. Mealy, but we actually heard from you during one of the other two testimonies on this item already. So this is the third testimony. So if you testified on the first or second time, you can't testify again.
On the third. So we can't testify now if we testified then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just like we couldn't do initial audience participation today, which is a special assembly, but last week was a special assembly, and we were allowed to do audience participation.
There will be final audience participation after we're done with all of our... So, ma'am, happy to hear from you during the final audience participation, but right now we're in the middle of public hearing for the budgets, so I'm happy to walk through that.
We're confused about the initial audience participation because if it's a special assembly, and last week was too, and we're not allowed to testify at this one, but we did it last week, you're causing the public to be confused, because then now we don't know when to testify, or if it'll be allowed
Sure.
now and not then.
So, yeah, I'm happy to talk through that. Thank you. So, on October 27th, we had the first public hearing on the budgets, and that is, Ms. Mealy, when you testified on the budgets, well, at least on this item that we have before us. Then the next opportunity that the public had noticed and available to testify was on November 4th, and that was our second public hearing on the budget. Today, we have our third and final public hearing on the budget. During those first and second times, I made it very clear to the public that you could only testify one of the three opportunities that we had, and you cannot testify at each one of those opportunities. So glad that I could clarify that. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Welcome.
My name is Elizabeth Freely. I'm a resident of Anchorage since I was 17 years old, and I'm here to testify about the Spruce Street Extension project. Thank you again, the Assembly, for hearing my comments.
Sorry to interrupt you. So that item is number 5E on the budget.
I
So,
apologize.
yeah,
Thank
come
you.
on back during that item.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on the item we have before us? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. So for the public, we're going to be voting on these items on November 17th. So I'm closing the public testimony. Then we have a work session on Friday to discuss any amendments. Then on November 17th is our expected date to vote on these various items. All right, we'll move on. Apologies, actually. I'm going to reverse that. So we have a couple folks left on the phone, and then I'll close testimony. So first we'll start with Tiffany Hall.
Hello?
Hi, Ms. Hall. This is Felix Rivera. You are here with the Anchorage Assembly. We're on public testimony for ordinance number AO 2020-105 on the 2021 General Government Operating Budget. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you. And sorry, just to clarify, does this include the alcohol tax
Correct.
portion? Thank you. Thanks very much, Chair Rivera, and to all of the Assembly for all of your work so far. I've been following, and I think every version of the alcohol tax portion of the budget gets better and better. And thanks especially for keeping prevention and upstream dollars well represented. There are 2 key pieces in the S version that I would like to address. The first is substance use disorder treatment. Through the versions of this budget, we have seen funding for alcohol treatment reduced again and again to now barely 4% of the overall budget. We know that alcohol is a pervasive problem that will never improve without both upstream and downstream solutions. And the alcohol industry has always considered that the one place that makes the most sense for alcohol tax revenue to support and treat alcohol use disorders. According to a recent needs assessment by the state for the 1115 behavioral health waiver, Anchorage needs 44 new treatment beds, 8 new intensive outpatient services, 2 ambulatory withdrawal providers, and 3 residential or inpatient withdrawal providers, which is far more than will be available through the Golden Lion. The budget contains a clear focus on homelessness, and alcohol use disorders are often upstream of homelessness. I know that personally when I hear stories in my 12-step meetings for people in recovery from alcohol, periods of homelessness are largely due to their alcohol misuse rather than being the other way around. So it's a critical and urgent need in our community, and $500,000 does not cover that need. In talking with providers, it costs about that much per year for 3 years to stand up a program that will be big enough to sustain itself, but Anchorage needs between 10 to 12 new programs. So I just urge you all to try to find some more funding for substance use disorder treatment in the S version. Everything in there is important, I know, so it's difficult, and everything in there is pretty much evidence-based except for camp abatement. It's not evidence-based solution. It does not reduce homelessness. It only moves people around and causes and perpetuates trauma in the meantime. And I believe that funding would be far better spent primarily to SUD treatment and some outreach to people in camps, connecting them to all of the wonderful new services that you are supporting. The second piece in the budget is equity, which is not identified in this budget. I know we've had this conversation, and we have said that research shows race-based disparities across every one of the issues listed in the alcohol tax, and if we want to see meaningful improvements, we need to dedicate some funding to addressing equity. Racial minority groups in Anchorage have higher rates of poverty and higher rates of unemployment than white people. Alaska Native and Black residents are more likely to experience homelessness. Alaska Native people are dying from alcohol at rates over 4 times higher than their fellow Alaskans. The list goes on, and we need to do something about these disparities. So I urge you to consider putting some of the dollars toward an increased budget for the new Chief Equity Officer position, as well as representing it in the narrative in decision-making and highlighted in guidelines for how the grants will be advertised and awarded that are the evidence-based grants that you have in the budget. So those are the 2 pieces that I would love to see, but again, I really, really appreciate all of your thoughtful consideration on this whole process. I know it's been a long road.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your testimony. All right, and then last on the phone, we are going to go back and try Carrie Reardon one last time.
Welcome to the voice.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on that item. Before I go on to the next one, just want to clarify for the clerk that on that last item, item 4A, that the postponed item is item AO 2020-117S. That is the item that was postponed. All right. Back to our public hearings. Next, we have item 5B, third public hearing on ordinance number AO 2020-106, an ordinance adopting the 2021 General Government Capital Improvement Budget. Don't have anyone on the phone list. Will anyone like to testify? Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, 43-year Alaska resident and 20 of those years Anchorage resident and currently in the Valley resident. Now, my comments here pertain to all the items because it has just a short history scenario, okay? Last year when you passed the budget, which included this item, this subject matter, meaning, maybe not the same financial numbers in there. I remember the scenario, you approved the budget last year, and then...
Actually, I'm gonna put a pause here. I just want to ask you a question, Mr. Haberman. So I do see that you're signed up to testify on all the various items. Since you said your testimony, would you like to just to testify once on all of the items? That way you don't have to keep
I like to
coming
hold
back
off
and
because
forth.
that gives me a chance to hear what the public has to say on...
Okay, great. Then I'm going to continue time and we'll just keep...
And thank you respectfully to ask me that question.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened is you approved last year's budget, for those of you who were here. And then in January period, there was a scenario of, if I remember right, and I'm not perfect totally, but I do remember, the city went out for like hundreds of millions of dollar loan. And I remember the statement from Fiscal report that, well, we're going to pay it by way of the property tax that's going to be coming in. And then we had COVID. But that loan had to be repaid. So what I'm addressing you tonight is where's the numbers to show that loan has been repaid? And what was outstanding is this, and I want to stress this point. You passed last year's budget, and then a short time later, you're going back to borrow money. That is unsound to me of the city going in that direction because you're saying this is what we need, and then you borrow money. And then you hear the numbers, oh, it's going to be low interest. And it's on betting on you're going to get property tax coming in. But we had COVID, and we still are dealing with COVID. And there's a question mark to, did the numbers come in to pay that loan? How are we financially sound? And I'd like to hear from the city a report to that loan. And it concerns me is that the city went out for a loan. When you say you want a budget, you approve a budget, and you go in this. Now we're back in the picture in this is one of the items, of getting public comment on. But the whole picture of that loan, what's the story of that? And are you going to go out and get another loan? This is a repeat performance. Is the city going to be doing? In January, okay, we're going to get another loan. Or do we have to, when I say we, the city, has to get a loan because of that outstanding loan, the continuation of that other loan? And what was irrational to begin with is for you to go before the public and go out there, go for the public for a response to the budget. You decide on the budget, and then you go out for a loan a month or two later. That's irrational, physically irresponsible. And then on this, you'll see these are references to bonds, and these things have to be paid. In COVID time, is the city physically able to pay these deals? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next, we have item 5C, third public hearing on resolution number AR 2020-351, a resolution adopting the 2021-2026 General Government Capital Improvement Program. And actually, ma'am, apologies, I told you the wrong item. This is your item. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to come up. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Freely. I've been a resident of Anchorage since I was 17 years old, and here to talk about the Spruce Street Extension project. Thank you again to the Assembly for hearing my comments tonight. I'm a resident of the Abbott Loop community and want to comment about the project in the capital improvement plan. Many residents of Abbott Loop request that the Spruce Street Extension project be removed from the capital improvement plan at this time. More research and community conversation need to be conducted before moving forward with this project, which is still part of the planning phase. It's not too late to make changes to the plan and to make better investments with the proposed $10 million in spending. I ask you to remember that we are a low-income neighborhood and residents of this area feel disenfranchised, unheard, and misrepresented. We would rather see the community needs met in a meaningful way, and we ask that you hold this plan from the capital investment plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have a comment for you.
Mr. Rivera is recognized.
Thank you. So, yeah, I want to appreciate you and Emily and everyone else for coming to the Community Council and getting engaged on this topic. I think as I explained at the Community Council meeting, the Assembly has 2 bites at this apple. So we have the opportunity when we vote on November 17th to deal with this item. We also have an opportunity when the item actually is up on the bond for us to deal with that item. So I think at this point there are some more discussions that we want to have with PM&E and bring them to the Community Council so that you can have a discussion sort of face-to-face virtually with them. So I think that's going to be next steps on this. So although we may not take action on the 17th on this item, it is definitely on Meg and I's radar to take action in the future.
We appreciate that. Trying to go door knocking in COVID times is very difficult. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Thank you. Welcome.
Okay. My name is Eugene Carl Haveman, Alaska resident for over 43 years, 20 years Anchorage resident, and currently Matsu Valley resident. On this one, we're dealing with capital improvement program. We're dealing with, it's a long day, forgive me. I juggle a lot. But the fact is that look at the state, and when they deal with their capital expenses and all that stuff, they're realizing that they're going to need to do cuts. Why? Because the money's not coming in. They've got billions of dollars deficits spending, and where's the money going to come out of? The permanent fund scenario, that all is in play right now. And so with you also got to realize is that you are betting also what you're going to get from the state in matching funds, what you're going to get from the feds. And the reality check is you do not know. You really don't know. A new administration may be coming in. I say maybe because no one certified the election yet, with all due respect, with all the announcements down in Washington. And we're still waiting for who's going to be the state representatives in our own state, what party is going to be the majority and so forth. We do not know. They're counting the ballots right now in our state. So you're dealing with a budget right now on the premise of you do not even know who's going to be our representatives here in the state and in Washington. So passing the budget and betting that you're going to get X money is not the way to go. To be fiscally responsible is this. You be very conservative in what you know you're going to get. And if you get more, great. But then you also, when you spend money, you be fiscally responsible in how you spend it so it goes the best way for the public interest. And that closes my comments, and thank you very much with all due respect.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next, we have item 5D, third public hearing on ordinance number AO 2020-107, an ordinance adopting and appropriating funds for the 2021 Municipal Utilities Enterprise Activities Operating Budgets and the 2021 Municipal Utilities Enterprise Activities Capital Improvement Budgets. Public testimony is now open on this item. Would anyone like to testify? No. Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Alaska resident for 43 years, 20 years Anchorage resident, and currently a Valley resident. Okay, utilities, that's what's before you here. But I would like to remind you too is what's been the primary two utilities that's been on the mind of the Assembly and the meetings I attend. One's been the port. Port is number one. Port's also the biggest expense out there as far as how much money the city's going to have to find to remodernize the port. So with this physical situation we are in, the state's in, our country's in, where is the money going to come from? So how, with your own budget, can you operate and you plan with improvements of the port when the big unknown is we've got COVID here? We've got a physical situation where the city needs to address, and address in such a way that doesn't create a situation where more businesses have to close down and more people are going out of work. Because if it's not addressed there, it's going to complicate the matters of remodernizing the port and addressing the other issues. And I'll leave you with that comment, except for one point here, and it's on the port. When you change the way you do your agendas in reference to monies dealing with the port and items there, then come from A to Z, you've increased the amount of money where it doesn't go for public hearing, and it's put on the consent agenda. So there's no real chance for the public to grasp that big ticket item of the port. You need to correct that and bring it back into the main agenda for public hearing so there's full disclosure on how you're dealing with the monies from the port. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next, we have item 5E, third public hearing on resolution number AR 2020-353. A resolution approving the 2021-2026 Municipal Utilities Enterprise Activities Capital Improvement Programs. We don't have anyone to testify on the phone list. Would anyone like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? I covered it. Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next, we have item 5F, third public hearing, ordinance number AO 2020-108, an ordinance adopting and appropriating funds for the 2021 operating and capital budgets of Anchorage Community Development Authority. We don't have anyone on the phone list. Public testimony is now open on this item. Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Alaska resident for over 43 years, 20 of those years Anchorage resident, and currently a resident of Matsu Valley. I want to stress this point out before I begin. The reason why I can speak so widely on these issues before you tonight is because of my years of attending a lot of meetings. One of them is before you right now, the Anchorage Community Development Authority. And when I witnessed for a few years attending those meetings, they don't comply with the open meetings law, they don't comply with A to Z, and I've seen projects come and go. And I've seen also assembly members be what we call ex officio members of that body. They go in, public like me has to go outside and not know what's said. It's been a bizarre situation, and you're dealing with a lot of money. I'm not questioning the idea of the Anchorage Community Development Authority. I see an important role it plays. But how it's been mismanaged for what I've seen, and my efforts to try to put a hand on what's going on there. We have no time for any mismanagement in Anchorage or anywhere else. We have a physical situation, and we need to deal with it wisely. I understand there's a change of management over there, who's over there, but the thing is, I would cautiously need to put a full hand, and those meetings may be in this room, so the public really sees how they're operating, not in those other rooms. But then, I remind you, these meetings right now are rarely in public eye, and so we don't really see what's going on with the Anchorage Community Development Authority. And a footnote of this is, I remember one project where the bus station was, and there was plans for a hotel there. I attended a lot of those meetings, and it was really difficult to get a grasp of what's going on, who the role players were. There was a lot of secrecy going on, and yes, secrecy, and that's not the way to go. And it was pushed through, and I saw it come through here. I also saw other projects come through, and that was the new police headquarters. And Community Development Authority played a role in that one. And I didn't like the way that played either, with all due respect. But I had a closer image, a closer picture of what's going on because of my role attending those meetings, as difficult as they were. And we can't afford this kind of scenario. And what I did see in the episode of Community Development Authority is another situation for the city becoming more physically irresponsible because they were putting in bets of investments or whatever, who was paying for what, and the end result is who's going to pay for it all.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next, we have item 5G, the third public hearing on resolution number AR 2020-352, a resolution adopting the 2021-2026 six-year fiscal program. I don't have anyone on the phone list. Would anyone like to testify? Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, 43 years Alaska resident, 20 of those years Anchorage resident, and 20 years Valley resident. But I think it should also be said is, where's the people speaking other than me? This is the budget. This is the last item on the budget. And it's a 6-year fiscal plan. And how can you plan out 6 years when we don't really know what the next 6 months are going to be? We can put bets on it, but in all reality, you shouldn't bet the public's money at this time. The words is fiscal conservative. The time of billions of dollars of surplus in the state, that's years away if we ever see that again. That surplus money that Anchorage was able to expand. And I remember Project 80s. That was a moment where money was wisely spent. This building here was part of Project 80s. Sullivan Arena was Project 80s. And the first mayor of Anchorage, George Sullivan, made a wise decision and directed it. And plans were already done before money came in or getting that money, and that was fiscally responsible. You plan it out, get those plans on the shelf, and then pull them out when money comes in. Not get the money and then rush through and build these projects. That was wisely spent. The Trails Plan was wisely done over the years. It was a smart move, and that was a great commitment. But we're talking about 6 years, what the future of our state is, the city is, and our nation. And one thing in all this mess we're in right now, we need to be working together, dealing with COVID more responsibly. Otherwise, the mayor is going to be forced to shut down the city and have essential businesses. And we cannot afford that in Anchorage or anywhere in the state. We are partners, and we need, as partners, respectively, is looking in the future, a situation where we recognize across the borders, the valley, over 100,000 people, and a good core of those people are valley residents coming into work in Anchorage. And we need to be partners, and both have to play a part in dealing with COVID. If you're not working with partners like that, and you shut down Anchorage, it's not going to be resolved, because you're still going to have to deal with the influx of valley residents coming in for jobs and working here. And there, it's a wild, wild west out there. I know it, I'm from there. So this so-called 6-year plan needs to be redone, because you are betting on something that you can't even futurely see that you'll have the money to spend and the bonds to pay for it. And what the rating of the city will be 1, 2, or 3 years ago will be in question. Thank you very much with 0 seconds to spare.
Thank you for your testimony. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing no one, public testimony is closed. Next on our agenda, we have final audience participation. Let me backtrack a little bit. So for the members in the body, to repeat, on Friday, we're going to have a work session regarding any amendments received by the clerk's office on the budget. And then after that, we take the vote on the 17th. So looking forward to our last 2 steps in this lengthy process. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to final audience participation. Going to start with our phone list, and then we'll go to anyone in person. So first, we'll start with Celeste Hodge Groudon.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Hodge Groudon. This is Felix Rivera. We are on final audience participation. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Assembly Chair and Assembly members. My name is Celeste Hodge Groudon, Alaska Black Caucus President and CEO. We are a nonprofit organization that advocates for the rights of Black people in the areas of health, education, justice, and economics. I'm not testifying for anything tonight. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm simply wanting to say thank you. I want to sincerely thank you for the work you're doing and to let you know how much you appreciate it. I watch these meetings online and cringe at times, witnessing what you go through just to make Anchorage a better place. I also thank you for your response to COVID-19, recognizing this urgent matter and putting steps in place to combat infections. This is a big deal to me. As a Black person who, along with other people of color from different cultural groups, as you know, are dying at alarming rates from COVID-19. So we get it. We also understand not everyone gets it, though, and won't be able to understand the urgency until their group is impacted like people of color groups. So thank you. I also want to thank you for hearing our cries for body cameras, for the police, for full accountability and transparency. I had a great conversation with both chiefs today, with a few other leaders from our diverse community, and found it to be very productive. So thanks for the invitation to participate, Assembly Chairman. Lastly, I want to say thank you for the creation of the Chief Equity position. As systemic racism continues to plague our country and unfortunately Anchorage, Alaska, it's clear returning to business as usual will not be good for our community. This body thought outside of the box and created a position timely to address systemic racism to help Anchorage move toward that beloved community, which is so desperately needed at this time. With that position is the need to make sure it's adequately funded so it's not set up for failure to address equity concerns and more. So as I shared in the beginning, the purpose of my testimony was to simply say thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Yep.
Next, we have Daniel Mealy, and then we'll go to in-person.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Mealy. This is Felix Rivera. You're here with the Anchorage Assembly. We are on final audience participation. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you. In continuing my 17-plus years of active military service, I have learned many lessons, but selfless service is one that resonates most with me. Selfless service is defined as putting the welfare of the nation, the unit, and your subordinates before your own. Such services can be performed to benefit other human beings or society more than your own. This means to put others above yourself. Anyone who serves understands dying to yourself and humbly lifting others up without expecting reciprocation. This also means trusting your fellow Americans, knowing we all have faults, but choosing to lift them up with love and understanding. Today I address the council not only as an active military member, but as a fellow Alaskan. My family and I plan to retire here because we love the people, the neighborhoods, and the beauty of the environment we get to behold daily. I am proud to call this area my new home. But recently, the fact has dawned on me, as well as others in my community, that it has become apparent that our public servants no longer serve the public. Tyrannical mandates, stripping of basic rights, and pushing for division between citizens you are supposed to be serving is being used to gain more power. The government does not have the right to over anyone's life, to include its government officials. My life and how I live it is my choice, just like your life is your choice to live how you like. Since this pandemic, the Assembly and the Mayor have pushed ideologies under the guise of mandates to force their will on the very people they have sworn to serve. You have pushed your wills on others beyond your power given to you by the very people you claim to serve, and you have abused it to no end. The fact is that your mandates and quarantine orders have destroyed more lives than it could have ever helped. Suicides, alcohol abuse, spouse and child abuse, drug overdoses, and psychological issues are all on the rise. It's even being reported by the Associated Press that children are beginning to regress due to school closures, saying they're forgetting how to use a fork and a knife, and some are even regressing back into diapers. Your mandates have made life worse for your citizens because you live in fear of a disease that has an insanely low mortality rate. You have pushed your fears on citizens who are not at risk to wear masks, or you are, quote, killing others, end quote, further alienating people from their fellow Americans. These people deserve better than what you are providing. You are the public servants. When will you start serving the public? Thank you.
Thank you for participating. Just a reminder for the public that, yeah, that's a good example. If you want to do that, feel free to, but please don't, no clapping. Thank you. Okay, welcome. Oh, my apologies. Did we hang up on, can we, you're good, okay.
It's okay. Can I speak to what I was going to say to his spouse?
Sure.
I can ask her. Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell me what rank your husband is?
My husband is a T4 and Officer 2, and he's getting looked at for 3.
Is he, so he's in the Army?
He is.
Okay. Well, I want to tell everybody here and everybody at home, thank you for being veterans and serving our country.
Thank you.
Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and that definitely needs to be acknowledged. So thank your husband for me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, and another thing. I'm under the understanding that the Pledge of Allegiance was muted
Yeah.
overall, so people at home couldn't hear it. I just want to make sure that maybe that doesn't happen in the future.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Economic instability and failures such as loss of full-time employment, loss of wages, many small businesses closing, a decline in living standards due to the amount of people in poverty increasing, fear-mongering propaganda distinguishing mark to show who was pro or against the agenda, political instability, and enforcement officers focused on overthrowing the republic to one focus on gaining power through force and popular support. That was socialist Nazi Germany during Hitler's dictatorship and eerily similar to 2020 Anchorage. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. It doesn't matter how many facts, data, and proof we present from CDC and credible sources. The majority of this assembly ignores the majority of their constituents, and you are avoiding the constitutional rights of your constituents because we like facts and science and don't blindly follow and call to worship your tyrannical rule. If you truly care about your constituents, are pro-constitutional rights, and want liberty and justice for all, you
Mr.
need
Chair,
to stop
point of order.
ostracizing the majority that
Point of order,
thinks...
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, man, I'm going to pause your time.
Thank you.
Go
I
ahead.
understand with the new mask mandates that we need to have masks on inside of here, even when testifying.
Yeah, so that is something that I am discussing with our Assembly Council.
Okay, so we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not
Thank
quite
you.
there yet. Thank you.
Can I restart because
I paused your time, ma'am, so
well, it's
I'm
not
gonna
that, but
continue
now the
time.
public can't hear
Ma'am,
my train of
I'm
thought.
going to continue your time. Thank you.
If you truly care about your constituents, are pro-constitutional rights, and want liberty and justice for all, you need to stop ostracizing the majority that thinks differently than most of this assembly just because of your power grab. We understand that you see us as a threat to you. You see that you've woken up a sleeping giant. You see all of the demonstrations, all of the protests, all of the testifying we do, and you don't want to hold a special election for mayor because you know that under fair election, your candidate would not make it. You would not get voted into office. You would not get the power that you're trying so hard to keep a hold of. You know that under fair elections, you would not have or continue to tyrannically rule over your constituents. We need to have fair elections because we, the people, need to appoint the person that actually puts our interests and that actually constitutionally holds up our rights and doesn't try to hold our constitutional rights hostage because we don't believe the way that you do. You need to start letting the American people in Anchorage live their life according to the Constitution, not what you think, not what best serves your political agenda, but what is best for the people. We are Americans and we have the right to live our life as we choose as long as it doesn't impose on other people's constitutional rights. And you guys are imposing on our rights on all levels. And you just know, and I am aware that you guys are just trying to suppress us by all that you're doing because you know that your candidates won't make it in a fair election. And we need to have a fair election and have our voices heard.
Thank you for participating.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I have a
Mr.
question.
Constant.
I'm in the queue.
I don't see you in the queue, but go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Constant.
I'm definitely in the queue. So, quick question for you. Thank you for your husband's service. Now, I understand yesterday, Jay Bear announced a series of new policies. Are you aware of these policies?
Yes, we are. And he actually discussed it with his higher ups, and they said that their policies don't come from the DOD. They're actually mandated through the local government. So if the local government doesn't lift their policies, they have to go in accordance to what you do. And just to let you know, after these mandates have been put in place over the last few months, over just one weekend, they had suicides from 3 military members because they have no contact with other people. They literally go to work and get shut back into their rooms. They have no social life. They don't get to interact with others. They are depressed.
So are you suggesting then that all of those things that you called us Nazis and all of these amazing labels that you put on us, that also the base commander is that? Because that's what it sounds like, the base commander.
So, Mr.
Yes.
Constant, I'm going to cut you off. That sounds like debate. Thank you. Ms. Allard?
Thank you. So I served my country as well, and so I understand how policy and regulations go. Are you clear on why the commander put out what she put out?
From my understanding that my husband spoke to her, she and those above her told him, well, they first told him that don't bring it back up because, logic, why would you use logic on them? And 2, they looked into it and they said, no, none of that comes from the DOD. It's from the local, from what they said to him, it's from the local municipality, and whatever the local government is doing is what they have to follow.
Okay. So I would follow up with that on saying that our military forces have to be ready at all times. They can't hang out at their house in a bathrobe. So when we need our forces ready, what a commander decides federally is completely different, and somebody who has no military experience or any federal service at any kind should probably not voice their opinions or their thoughts when they're misled.
Same point of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to finish this meeting in a collegial and professional manner. Welcome.
Thank you. Is it on? All right. Hello, thank you for having me here. My friend Jared asked a serious question. Are the assembly members running our city? Oh, excuse me. My name is Amber Glasser, for the record. Are the assembly members running our city with medical staff input, or are the medical experts running our city with Muni input? He continues with, we did not vote in doctors or hospital staff to govern our city. Our assembly members cannot hide behind the decisions they are making and claim that medical experts are recommending them. This is a picture of Joyce and Jim. Joyce and Jim are not anti-maskers. Joyce and Jim are both retired critical care ER nurses. They have religiously worn their masks and have hunkered down. Jim writes, and I'm paraphrasing here, since April, we have continued going to our CrossFit gym 4 days a week. Since April, 0 members have tested positive. Mature adults can handle this situation without a one-size-fits-all mandate. I implore you to rethink this mandate, which has a much better chance of causing harm than good. Here are a couple responses to Jim's plea. It's never been about public health and safety. It's all about compliance. That's why no one really cares about the quality of the mask, only that you wear one. This is a social experiment on conformity and compliance. I could go on, but it won't matter to you. Please make sure you read Joyce and Jim's entire email. It's very informative. I'm a parent, a blue-collar worker, and a homeowner. Do I have to sell my house in the near future? We have not yet truly felt the devastation of this, and I'm worried about negative equity. Think about that. How many more Anchorage citizens are going to be forced out because of your ridiculous mandates? Why can't Alaska lead the way, show the rest of the country that we are smart, responsible humans that can take care of each other without mass amounts of government overreach? I've heard of 7 suicides just in the Anchorage School District alone. That number doesn't include my friend Corey or any of the adults that we've lost from the depression of these lockdowns. I have overcome so much in my life, and I want everyone to have that opportunity. So many children in the city are growing up the way I did, poor with drug-addicted parents. Some children don't have parents. They live in foster care or on the street. My 7-year-old nephew is one of these kids. This is still the norm, and if not worse for so many. We have a responsibility to get kids back in school and not at 50% capacity. Why can't we do this, you guys? You're killing me. If you want to talk about unity, let us take care of each other without any of you stepping in, and you will see unity. Alaskans look out for each other, no matter what walk of life you come from.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Christine Hill. The Assembly and Mayor, you are being oppressive. We can't clap. We've never had a problem in the Assembly chambers of people clapping or going overboard. You clapped the last meeting that I was at and stood up. We stood up and we held our hands. This is very wrong. You are hurting. You've heard. You are actually hurting and killing people. And you are spreading fear among the people. This is so wrong. And everything was pretty much okay. I never didn't think it was okay, but everything was kind of rocking and rolling and doing well until you, behind closed doors, and then just brought it to light that you're going to buy 3 commercial buildings in Anchorage. And that is what started the uproar, and it has not stopped, and it will not stop. Please listen to us. Please react. Please use your brains. This is not good what's happening to Anchorage, Alaska. I cannot believe in the history that I've been here for 37 years, the recalls that are happening, which I am not behind, but I'm just astounded with the money that's spent and the effort and the time. It's incredible. Perhaps if you want to save the city money, resign with dignity now. because this is not what the majority wants. Resign with dignity. You are going in the wrong direction. You are hurting. You are killing people. You are not helping. Thank you.
Thank you for participating. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairperson Rivera. Thank you, Assembly members, Acting Mayor Quinn Davidson, and the rest of the legal team. I would like to first discuss the items discussed earlier, the 5A through G. You have taken a 757-page budget and distilled it down to less than 50 pages. So there obviously must be some information lost to the community in that deliverance. It's obvious that you are hiding things. I know that you have posted it on your website. However, this is an inadequate representation of the entire budget. Secondly, I would like to speak to the fact that you have a six-year fiscal priority plan. It is too long ahead in the future to be able to plan financially with so many unknowns in our community, potential invasion from foreign entities, domestic uprisings that could happen. Thirdly, I would like to speak to the fact that you are opposing the special election for Acting Mayor Austin Quinn Davidson to be unseated. Firstly, the shell game move that happened between the chairperson Felix Rivera and Austin Quinn Davidson was not only inappropriate and immoral, the fact that you used hidden ballots that were behind the scenes is not appropriate. With every other vote, you put up on the board and then it's listed online how the members voted. The fourth example I would like to draw upon is the fact that within your APOC disclosures, every single one of you, it reveals unto us that there is a shell game going on between nonprofit organizations, NGOs, and the assembly members and the acting mayor. What happens here, to make it simple for y'all, is that someone donates to your campaign and then you later give them a promise that you will have a back-end result for them money-wise for their business or for their family members. The fifth thing I would like to discuss is Ms. Grundle, the leader of the Black Caucus locally, and I don't mean to call her out. However, it is clear that she is accepting the Office of Equity and Justice position with the municipality. That is a $180,000 annual salary. So the fact that she works for a nonprofit and then wants to call up and thank you all, it's obvious that she has some motives behind that. The sixth example I would like to draw upon is the fact that you have voted on a budget and then you are going to go into private sessions to rediscuss. You have only allowed 45 persons into each meeting, so if you include the 11 assembly members, the acting mayor, and the legal team, that leaves about 30 community members or less for each one of the 3 meetings. Thank you very much. 2 seconds to spare.
Thank you. Come on down, Eugene. Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, 43 years Alaska resident, 20 of those years Anchorage, and currently the Valley. Because I attend so many meetings and I cross a lot of territory every day, basically, I can do comparisons of what goes on in the Valley and Anchorage particularly on COVID. Tonight, Assembly members, you wear face coverings. But when you attend a Borough Assembly meeting, hardly any Assembly members are wearing face coverings, and the mayor, particularly who chairs the meeting, does not. Palmer meeting, most are remote, not there, but the clerk and the mayor does not. And the Houston, not any better. When I left Houston council meeting, which meets roughly once a month, I was told to chill out when I was asking for the door to be open for fresh air during the break. And I maintained my composure, but driving back, I came up with these words. And I don't mean this to you as Assembly members, but to those who are not wearing face coverings, particularly out in the Valley, that you're confusing freedom with responsibility. You're confusing freedom with responsibility, and what has happened? We're faced as a state where people are going 2 different ways. One, parties are concerned and being responsible. Others, many others, in Anchorage, businesses, the Valley, and across the state, and even our governor is looking a blind way to dealing with the issue. Remind you, out in the Valley, the borough does not have police powers. So it's up to the governor to come in to require those face coverings. I tried in the city of Palmer and Houston where they could introduce an ordinance dealing with face coverings. They refused to do that. Now we're faced with a situation, the state's faced with a situation, and you in particular, and the administration is with the decreasing number of beds dealing with COVID in hospital care. The horizon does not look good. The situation is, what do you do? For one thing, I plead with you not to go in the direction of closing and dealing with essential businesses. To work as a leadership role and bring up leaders out there to say, let's be responsible, and not just say it, to enforce it. Bring the governor who's been looking blindly and saying, you need to do it, but no enforcement. And the end result is Anchorage is faced with a situation that I dread, maybe weeks away, maybe sooner, with a decision that doesn't look good. But what has happened? We had an opportunity not to go in that direction. And there failed to be a leadership, both in Anchorage and the state and our governor, to follow through and bring us together as a community and realize this is not, you should not confuse freedom with responsibility. That ends my time. Thank you.
Thank you for participating. Would anyone else like to participate? All right, we'll move on in our agenda to, since we do have time tonight, I'm going to go ahead and do assembly comments before we adjourn. If anyone would like to speak, I'll start on this side with Ms. Allard.
Thank you, Chair. So I did say earlier that I wanted to thank our veterans. So yesterday was Women's Veterans Day, and tomorrow is Veterans Day. And I just want to thank everybody who served our country and has done everything they've needed to be patriots. It's big boots to fill when you give your life to our communities and our country. So each and every one of you, I thank you tonight, and I thank you for our future that you've led for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if you all saw the report from the CDC today. It said that people that were wearing masks keep from spreading the virus to other people by over 95% of the time. And those who wear masks helps reduce their chance of catching the virus by 70%. And so if we want to try to get this virus under control so we don't have our hospital ICU beds completely full, and we have to bring in refrigerator trailers for the dead bodies like they did in New York, then I think everyone would be wise to be wearing masks anytime they're outside of their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. LaFrance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also like to thank our veterans and families for their sacrifice and service. I am grateful to live in the democracy of the United States. Again, thank you. I did want to comment that a member of this body belongs to, encourages, and promotes a Facebook group on which death threats have recently been made against assembly members. My children overheard my husband and I talking about these death threats. That's not the kind of conversation you want to have with your children. I can't believe this is what we've come to in our community. This kind of behavior is shameful and appalling. As public officials, we need to swiftly condemn this kind of behavior and distance ourselves from groups that foster violence. We may disagree on policy, but we can and must be civil in our disagreements. Promoting violence is reprehensible and must not be tolerated. Anyone belonging to a group in which death threats are a part of the narrative needs to condemn that behavior immediately. We have been elected by our constituents. Let's act responsibly, carrying out our duties to represent them honorably. This violent language must stop.
Let's be respectful of each other. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Dunbar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to echo what a number of my colleagues have said about Veterans Day, and I know we'll all be celebrating it in our own way or trying to honor troops in our own way tomorrow. I'll say from my own experience in the Army National Guard, I've been impressed by the degree to which our command has taken the COVID-19 threat seriously and has mandated masks, has provided hand sanitizer, has allowed copious amounts of work from home to try to prevent the spread of the virus. They take the science seriously. They need their soldiers healthy and deployable, and I believe that that is reflected in the broader force as well. I want to echo what Ms. LaFrance said and hope that we can sort of turn this ship around when it comes to the discourse. And I'll finally say, unfortunately, we broke another record today with 8 folks dead, recorded dead, 8 Alaskans from COVID-19, including an Anchorage woman in her 40s. It's clear that this virus is spreading rapidly. We had more than 530 new cases today. And again, deaths and hospitalizations are trailing indicators. You have a spike in infections first, then you have hospitalizations, then you have death. And even at a 0.1% fatality rate, when you see 500 deaths or 500 new cases, that means 5 people might die from that one day's worth of reporting. So the numbers are very worrisome right now, and some of the public testimony unfortunately reflects a refusal to really grapple with the numbers we're seeing and the death rates we're seeing. And fortunately, Alaska has done better than the rest of the country. But if our trends continue, we will catch up to places like Idaho, where their death rate has been 5, 6, 7 times higher than ours. I don't want to see that, and so I hope all of us can do our part to reduce the spread of this virus. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Weddleton?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Constant?
Thank you, and on a positive note through all of that, in the midst of this week's election, we heard from Pfizer that by the end of the year, they'll be circulating a vaccine that looks to have a 90% effective rate, and I hear by April we will see the ability to get Alaskans vaccinated, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. And despite the resistance of a number of people who just can't bring themselves to wearing a mask or being part of the solution, most Anchorage residents are, and it's my great gratitude to them for being part, and we will lose some people because of the inability of people to participate in this collective solution. Our schools aren't able to open right now because of the failure of a number of people to participate in a collective solution, but we will make it through because science and time is on our side. As we move into the spring, it's going to be a dark winter, but we're going to get through it.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to also thank our veterans, those who had served in our armed forces for, in some cases, decades, and those who maybe only served a short time, but they are all definitely worthy of our thanks. And I want to give a special shout out to my husband, 20 years in the Air Force, to my father, who spent 26 years in the Air Force, and my father-in-law, 27 years in the Army. So I will tell you that my father's generation are the storytellers, and I hope that people have the opportunity to hear some of those stories and really understand what a sacrifice a lot of them made, and of course a lot of their friends made with their lives. So just want to say thank you. The other thing is, I hope that we will actually continue to have good conversations about what is happening in our community with COVID. The one thing that encourages me is that we now have thousands of people in this community who not only had COVID, but have survived it. And I think it's important for the public to recognize that people are absolutely surviving. I know that those who have had it are basically telling everyone you don't want it. I mean, some, granted, have had really mild cases. But I do know that there are some who really struggled with it, and I think people need to recognize that a lot of this absolutely is about personal responsibility. And that's what I appreciate about some of the governor's remarks about a lot of the science that's behind this. People need to recognize that this is not instantaneous death to anyone. It could lead to that for some, but I hope that we will continue as a municipality to really put out the information so that people understand and get a bigger picture, a better picture of what is happening in this community, because we certainly don't want people to be unduly fearful. We just want people to be wise and responsible. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Perez-Verdia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to join my colleagues tonight in thanking our veterans. My dad proudly served in the Marine Corps, and my brother was a West Point graduate and served in the United States Army. And so it's an important day for our family. And it's important that we recognize the men and women who sacrifice and stand up for our country. With that, I want to also thank my colleagues for their service on this assembly. This is not easy work, and I want to thank you for your time and commitment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Zolotel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would echo my colleagues' sentiments and thanks around Veterans Day tomorrow. I would also like to echo Ms. LaFrance's comments. The conversations that have had to occur amongst many members and with their families have been disheartening and aren't what I was expecting at all when I joined this body. So I look forward to working with the community to find that return to civility and moving forward from there. I'd also like to thank the community for their engagement around the revisions to the emergency orders, the questions we've received, the engagement with them, figuring out how these emergency orders work, whether that was those who joined the chair and myself for a constituent Q&A over the weekend, or those who've emailed or called. I really appreciate when there's uncertainty or a need for clarity, individuals reaching out and engaging, and extremely thankful to the administration for their quick turnaround on answering questions and addressing concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.